Films, director Mr. Jack Hill.
Okay, sorry. I just have a few words to say because I know everybody would like to see the movie, but I just want to say, well, what a wonderful thing it is for me to see everybody here, like a new generation, you know, of a film that seems to, new generation of people seem to find new things in them, you know, they laugh at jokes that weren't there and vice versa. And so it'll be interesting to see how you like these films. Just want to mention that, me personally, I've been called a Grindhouse. I've been called a legendary cult film director, and I've also been called notorious. Anybody know why? Why? We can talk. During the break, I'll be hearing some of the players from some of the films are here that I'm going to have you meet, and I'm sure that'll be fun. And in case anybody here is familiar with my other film, Spider Baby, and during the break, I will make a very interesting announcement about Spider Baby that I'm keeping secret until then. Is that good enough?
That's good enough. I know the secret, but I'll keep it secret also.
Okay, yeah.
Big thank you to Mr. Jack Hill for being here. Enjoy the movies. We've got a few trailers ahead of time. And please stay seated after the film and having back up along with the guests for Q&A. Thank you guys for coming here, and thank you. So I'd like to bring up now, first off, our main guest, our special guest for tonight, Mr. Jack Hill, the director of the film. Make sure I get all the guests when I go through the film. So we've got a couple of guests who are in this film here. We just saw Switchblade Sisters. First off, I'd like to bring up one of the stars of the film, Miss Joanne now. As an actor, as stunt coordinator, Mr. Bob Miner. Film, Swinging Cheerleaders, Rosanne, Katon. And I'd like to also bring up two other guests who aren't in the two films we're showing tonight, but also work with Jack. So I wanted to get kind of a group thing here, since Jack, as I mentioned in my email, is going to be leaving us here in LA in a couple of weeks. So I want to bring us a few guests up. So I've got two guests who were in a film we've shown in the past, a couple of years ago, in the Big Bird Cage. We've got Teda, Bracci, and Candice Roman. So I want to say, here it is now. This is, we're coming up on almost 40 years now since this film was made. And obviously we've got a full house here and it still plays well. So maybe starting with you, Jack. What about this film do you think, obviously it worked again, as you're seeing with the new audience. So what about this film do you think keeps the strength and the energy and the,
I don't know. When I first saw this film with I kind of had dubious feelings all the way through making them. Are we crazy? Are we doing this? Is this the right thing we really want to do? Based on Shakespeare's Othello, actually. Sort of, And when I first saw it in a theater, I thought, my God, I've done everything wrong that I could possibly do wrong. And I still feel that way now when I see it, and yet people seem to like it.
Well, I think it takes in so many different elements of the films that time period, because you've got first you've got Shakespeare for the higher class crowd, and then you've got a women in prison scene, you've got you've got the revolutionaries, you've got gang warfare,
right? Yeah.
You've got 30-year-old high school gang members who. But I will point out, usually when you watch films, the gang members are 30 years old. It's very obvious these actors are really old, and and you're supposed to just accept it. But here, at least you make a comment on it when they show up.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
you guys,
that's kind of the point of it.
the dude with the mustache looked like he was 40.
See this, you have to realize that when this picture was made, it was the Nixon years, you see, and my idea was that everything was going to go downhill, and this was kind of a projection of what the world would be like, you know, in the next 10 years or so. It would be deteriorated to this extent. And so that was kind of a joke in a way, but it was also kind of a serious comment.
Maybe while we're on Switchblade, maybe we'll go to, we got a couple of cast members here, Joanne and Bob.
Yes.
Maybe you guys can talk about maybe coming into the film and, you know.
Just as hot as ever.
I really enjoyed this. This was my first film from New York when I was doing stage work, and I met Jack. And
Shakespeare, actually.
I was doing Shakespeare in New York, believe it or not. And then this was such a great part because it was a first for women empowerment films, and you know, the women take over and really are doing something. Not constructive necessarily, but they are. They are trying
Men
to
do
get
anything constructive either.
the brothers and sisters off of drugs, the drug dealers. But anyway, I just was so excited about this part. And I remember my agent said, "You'll learn a lot about film if you do this part."
Boy,
And we, I don't know how many weeks. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks we shot it in, but it was the best, most fun I had ever had. And Bob Miner, a great stunt person, who is the president of the Stuntman Association, did such a wonderful job choreographing. He said, "Do you want to do your own stunts? We have stunt doubles." I said, "Let's do it. Let's learn them all, and we'll do it." And at any rate, it was just a great experience. And I just loved the rhythm of it. I think the thing that makes it so fun is that everything is so retro these days. And the fact is it was... I thought the lines were so funny because they were just interesting. I mean, they all had rhythm to it. It seemed like it had rhythm and it had humor, and it was in the midst of the reality of the time. Actually, Jack was also saying that he took some of those ideas out of the police files, things that were going on right then with the gangs, getting kids on drugs, and so on. And so it seems like it was really artistic in the sense of a cultural phenomenon that was going on.
That's what I like to hear.
That's how I explained it.
And Bob, what about you? Now you as an actor, but primarily a stuntman and stunt coordinator, have worked on a lot of films. I mean, look at his credits. I mean, Bob has been in probably half the films we've shown here. He's worked on with stunts, but coming from a different angle as an actor, but primarily a stunt guy, you know, maybe what was your experience working on the
My
film?
experience was with Jack. Jack is a marvelous man. I'm gonna really hate.
That's on.
Are you on?
Oh, there you go.
It says
Hold
I'm
it close.
Anyway, like I say, Jack is a marvelous director. Everybody knows that. And Jack is gonna leave us, and so he's not gonna be around anymore. So you guys gonna cry. And so we're having a wonderful time, and I've had such a great experience working with Jack.
It means I'm moving away,
Yes,
not
he's-
switching.
We're not going to execute Jack at the end of the show tonight. We wish him a good trip cross country.
Anyway.
Getting out of Hollywood.
And of course, wasn't she cute in the movie? You were wonderful. I tell you,
thank you
you
so
were
much.
wonderful. And
I had
physically,
a heart.
well, you know, you're not bad physically either. Boy, you can kick some butt. Man, watch out, guys.
And those shorts.
They have knives. They have knives. Switchblades. Nobody want to mess
Can I
with
just
you,
say
baby.
something? I don't know, Jack, if you remember, but during the whole making of this movie, I was living with your partner, Prizer.
Oh, that's right.
That's
My
right.
producer, that's right, yeah.
And so I kind of
We've met
got to
over.
read all of the versions of the script. And what I remember the most about when you guys were putting the script together was how you were really using a lot of the events that were happening in the day. I mean, the whole the Patty Hearst thing was going on, the Black Panther thing was going on, and all of that was found a way into that was when there was I think there was a scandal about welfare pimps who had were taking money and they weren't helping the kids or something like that, and all of that found its way into Switchblade Sisters, which was great.
And I do want to say something about, too, talking about, you know, the times and everything else. You know, the film itself is set in somewhat of a fantasy world in a way, you know, the high school and the battle tanks and all. There's something about it that is clearly
I like to think of it as operatic.
operatic. Yet the opening, I mean, the
And the
opening,
backlog.
the opening credits though, with the photography around Los Angeles at the time is pretty incredible and sets up this sort of realistic, snapshot of what this world was that was suddenly then kind of jumping into. Who took the photos at the beginning? Was that?
No, I don't remember. We had a guy design the title credit. Very good guy. I don't remember what it was right now.
And I will mention a couple of people in the end credits you might have seen. Director Don Jones, who's done some stuff we've shown here, I think was your sound guy on that. And Andy Romanoff, who's been here a few times with Herschel Gordon Lewis films, was your still photographer on that.
Talk to Fujimoto.
And Tak Fujimoto,
Fujimoto.
incredible cinematographer on that.
No, he was not the cinematographer. He was the camera operator.
Right, he was operating.
He was in need of a job at that time, and we got very lucky. He's one of the best in the business.
Well, Stephen Katz is a pretty good.
Stephen Katz was very good.
Shot Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers, yeah, I know. Very good camera.
I enjoyed playing the police officer because those girls were so mean. They didn't pay any attention to me. Well,
He was a good actor.
I really wanted to be a cop, but I found out being a stuntman make more money.
If you're clean.
But Foxy Brown, I mean Foxy Brown with him, and I loved it. Coffee, Swinging Cheerleaders. So I tell you, this man has done a lot. I really appreciate it.
Is coming up. I hope all of you can stay to see that because that's really a good movie.
And I want to a lot of you too, for a lot of you, maybe Bob not so much, but a lot of you working on these films with Jack was in many cases your first, second, third film very early in your career working on features. So maybe we'll go to, guess at the end, to Teda and Candice, maybe talk a bit about working with Jack and maybe a memory you have working on
Have yours and I'll have mine? There you go.
working on Big Bird.
Get out of here. Well, I guess I'll speak. Hello. I had done a film with Sid Haig, who I adore and love. I think he's the craziest man. And he called me up and said, I want you to come down and meet Jack Hill. There's a great car for you with a creek named Bull Jones and da-da-da-da-da-da. And they come on down here. So I said, okay, I'll come on down. Met Jack, read something like that, and said, okay, you got it. And all of that, I'm off in the Philippines. And I loved the car, and I got to meet you, Jack, doing his stuff. And it was really, I know I shouldn't have said that.
No, I just have been there, done that.
Oh, you've done that too. That was my first. Thank you. And so I had a good time, and I loved the whole thing I did. But I remember that one part, and I always wanted to ask Jack about that, when he wanted me to kick Pam in the area of the crotch area to start the fight. And I didn't, no one's choreographer, so I didn't know if I was going to go at her or what. I said, Pam, hang on a minute. Hang on. I'm coming at you. And then I would go and I would stop. And then Jack got frustrated. I did it about 3-4 times, and I stopped. I said, because he getting mad at me, sort of, go ahead, Teda, do that. I said, okay, Pam, I'm coming at you. So here it is, and we went boom, and it really works. When I saw, then you see this big whole fight scene. But that was that whole moment that I said, I'm going to hurt Pam in this moment. I don't want to hurt anybody, because no one choreographers are thing. Just go at the person. So that's all the things. So I had a good time, and I met Jack doing this whole thing. We had a great, and I got a lot of freedom in there to sit on a man's face, show my tits. I had a great time. I did it all.
The opportunities this man has provided in Hollywood for all these people. All these things.
I never knew that.
Well, I had a terrific time. I was doing a play at the time in Hollywood, and my agent said, "Go on over there and check this out." And so I met Jack and auditioned, and next thing you know, I'm on a plane to the Philippines, and boy, was I excited. In fact, the first day that I was there, Sid Haig took me on a canoe ride, and I had the whitest skin of the cast. Everybody else had, kind of nice tans, but I had milk white skin. And my first day there, he took me on this canoe ride, and it was so beautiful. Monkeys were jumping all over the place, and it was really, really hot. And then way off in the distance, I saw somebody on a hill going like that, and I'm going. What they were saying is, "Get out of the sun!" I had the worst sunburn before the first day of shoot. But anyway, we were there for what, 8 weeks? Something like that?
2 months.
2 months.
That's it is 2 months.
Yeah. And I remember, yeah, very, very good. We had the best time. And I remember one night, I had this narrative that I was dreading, and evidently Jack was dreading it also, because we stayed up all night trying to get this narration to describe the big bird cage. We stayed up all night. And I tried my best, Jack. I really did. We did. You were so nice. So nice. I don't think we quite got it, but you know, I had the best time of my life doing that shoot and working with you, Jack. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And I did also want to mention we had a couple of guests who were hoping to come down tonight, but both of them were ill and unable to make it. And they did send their best and apologize for not making it. Marlena Clark from Switchblade Sisters was hoping to come down, but has been ill the last few days, so she sends her best. And also from Swinging Cheerleaders, I spoke to Colleen Camp a few hours ago, and she's been sick the last few days too. There's something going around. Eric, who normally does the shows with me, is also sick. So they send their best. I'd love to be here, but you know, because of illness, couldn't make it down here. So I just want to, now that we've covered a little bit, I want to open it up to the audience, some questions too. I'm sure some of you guys must have some questions for these people. Oh, first question.
What's that big announcement you have for Spider Baby?
Okay, I'll make this quick. For you, for any of you who happen to know my film Spider Baby, which has become a kind of a cult classic, I just kind of announced that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is at this very moment engaged in doing a first-class restoration on the film. Which will mean that they can make brand new prints with the soundtrack enhanced. It's always been kind of on the edge, and they're going to fix it. And so I'm really looking. They're also making a few little changes that I have all these years wished I could make. Just 3-frame cut here, a little sound there, you know. You know how it is.
But they're actually doing new 35.
Yeah, there'll be new 35mm prints available. So I would hope that you could premiere the first.
And hopefully we can entice you to come back to LA when you get back.
Yeah.
In a minute.
But I think what's the most interesting thing is it's your director's cut, right?
Yeah, it's incorporating a scene that was cut from the original release, which has been available till now on the latest DVD release. But they're incorporating that back into the movie now, which is really good.
The first time the 35mm print exists of your director's cut.
So when that's done, we will premiere it here, the unseen director's cut, never before seen.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's not a big deal, but I'm glad the scene is back.
It's a very big deal.
Because it's a scene with Lon Chaney, and I really always was sad that they had cut that out.
They put it back in.
They put it back in.
Now it's put back in. When I mean they, I mean the original distributors.
Let's take some questions from the audience. I know, in the middle.
How much like autonomy did you have over your films? I mean, did you have like certain requirements you had to, fulfill from producers or, stuff like that?
There's certain what I like to refer to as requirements of the genre.
Girls.
Yeah, requirements of the genre, but I kind of created some new standards of my own, I guess, in certain ways. But the requirements are, I think one of the best lessons I ever learned from Roger Corman was about making a movie. He says something has to happen in every reel, meaning 10 minutes, something has to happen. So I always try to make something unexpected happen, and I think that's one thing that I've done well, is being unpredictable. But yeah, the requirements of the genre are you got to have certain kind of violence, certain kind of sex. But unfortunately, so many of the films made in that period didn't last today, because basically they just were like dealing from a deck of cards. You have a fight here, you have a chase here, blah, 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 without the real emotional tension that makes them mean something. You understand that you can kill somebody, that's great, but if you kill somebody that you've fallen in love with or that you have become to think as a comedy character, then it gets you, the laugh that sticks in the throat. And that's kind of what I tried to do, and I think has worked pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, that is a key difference. A lot of films that were made in this time period before with exploitive elements, the whole purpose of the film was just to see nudity and things of that sort. Now, 30, 40 years later, you can see it on TV, on the internet. If that's the only reason to see the film itself loses, a lot of its appeal, whereas your films do connect on so many other levels. And one thing I'll mention too, you mentioned early in discussion, and people I'm sure always, you have very strong female characters in your films too,
And sometimes there's things that you're doing that you don't really know you're doing. It's very interesting that this movie, after it was long, after the theaters kind of went out, or the drive-ins went out, was kind of consigned to oblivion. But during all those years, before it was resurrected, it was being distributed on home video as a lesbian cult film.
It appeals to lots of different elements, you know. But was this I mean, what was the background? So, I mean, a lot of your films do have strong female characters where, you know, they may be victimized in the film, but they're not victims. They fight back. They escape.
Yeah, right.
They fight against the forces of oppression.
Well, for example, I've been severely criticized on occasion for the rape scene in this movie with this young lady here, and I stole it right out of The Fountainhead. If you ever see the movie The Fountainhead, but they get away with it because it's Gary Cooper, you know. And that was written by Ayn Rand, the famous ultra-conservative freako author, which people find hard to understand, but she knew how to sell a book.
You fought back.
Over on the side.
I fought back.
I fought back.
What does Lace have in her hair when they're attacking crabs?
It's like Princess Leia.
Yeah.
But it's
Chains.
pre-Princess, it's years before.
I think it's
Princess
chains
Leia.
or something, silver chains.
Yeah,
or
she
something,
came up with
right?
that. I don't know.
Aluminum foil, wasn't it?
I don't know. The costume designer on this movie was Jody, I forget her name, who later became one of the top costume designers. Yeah.
I'll have to ask her what that was on the side.
I don't remember. I know there was a lot of cookie things going on there.
Well, speaking of which, my belt, are you interested about that? That
Yeah.
belt? That was my weapon of choice. And I Western costume designed it. And it was called Six Balls. It had 6 balls on it. And therefore, I used it.
Yeah, that was actually my idea. I thought of it as sort of a kind of a little mini polo, you know, that she could. I'll take credit for that idea, at least.
Do you have any other?
Yeah, I want to be a director when I'm older, and I was just wondering if you had any.
Why wait?
I just wanted to know if you had any advice for aspiring filmmakers.
The best advice I can give anybody who wants to be as a director is don't let anybody know that you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, I wish I could give more serious advice, but that really is good.
That's all you get for free. That advice. No, there's somebody in the back, I saw.
Just keep writing, that's the way. Go ahead.
You ladies are still super hot.
Wow, thank you.
In the middle of the back.
So speaking of writing, did you write it, and how fast did you come up with that? I thought it was extremely well written.
Yeah, in this case, I worked with a writer, and my producer partner was he found the writer, and oddly enough, the writer, I don't think he ever did anything else after this.
I know what happened to the writer.
Last I heard of him, he was...
He's the editor of the National Catholic Register,
Yeah.
the most conservative Catholic publication. Yes, he is the editor of it, and he has been the editor for 25 years.
And he doesn't want anybody to know that he wrote this movie.
We learned everything from Jack.
But I worked, what? Yeah, he was the assistant to the Archbishop in Denver last I heard.
But the thing is that he was did all the editorial content for the most conservative wing
Oh, he
of
was
the
a real
Catholic
conservative,
Church.
yeah.
Francis Mayer, right?
Fran Mayer, yeah,
Fran
Francis
Mayer.
X Mayer. Yeah, Francis X, you know, he's a Catholic, right?
Yeah. So I remember when you guys were doing this, he always said he wanted to do a movie about an angel. Do you remember that?
Probably not the movie Angel with the prostitute.
No, he did come up with some very good ideas. The line about below the belt, that was his idea. I couldn't have come up with that.
What's up with the Nazi medallion? Like, nobody said anything about it, but it's like featured so prominently, and it's, you
No,
know,
it's
everyone
just a
looks at it.
Maltese cross. There's no intention to make anything associated with Nazi there.
Okay.
Although the Nazis use the Maltese cross, but that's not the Maltese cross's fault.
There are so many great touches in the film too. Just the set designing and the posters in the various scenes. That great poster, a crab standing in front of the flag. I mean, there's so many great little touches in these films. All of your films. There's always something in the background too that's really
Yeah, thanks. Maybe that's why people like to see them over and over again.
Did I see another?
Always something new.
Over on the left.
I was wondering if this movie has played in China, because obviously the poster Mao and the little red book.
Well, I'll give you one little comment on that. I kind of doubt that, but I'll give you one little comment. When we tried to sell the picture overseas, some markets refused it for various reasons, but in Indonesia refused it flatly, and that little red book was all it took for Indonesia to turn it down, because, as you know, they massacred a couple 100,000 Chinese.
Did I see another hand up somewhere? And we don't have to just ask questions about Switchblade Sisters. We can also talk about Swinging Cheerleaders without giving out any plot points.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the movie Pit Stuff.
All right.
The race car movie with the ovular track, and where on earth that idea came from, and like what made you want to delve into that world?
Yeah, I'll be real brief. Basically, I had the assignment that if I could do a picture about stock car racing for a certain budget, it could get made and financed. And I really needed a job at that time, and I hated stock car racing. I like the European style racing, you know, but stock car racing, maybe it's just that. And then I discovered this racetrack down here. It was down in down on off Vermont somewhere down there. Where they had this figure eight racing, and I went down there and I took one look at it and I said, "My God, this is going to be Americana for the Europeans and people all over the world. They're going to see this and just it's going to blow their minds, you know, that people could do such a crazy thing." So we shot six weekends of races with 5 cameras with this figure eight track, and assembled all the crashes were it's just unbelievable. But if you've never seen the movie, anybody's never seen the movie, you might want to see it. Just for that.
If you haven't seen it, you sort of figure eight racing where the cars actually cross in the middle of the track at full speed.
And they just crash. Of course, they crash a lot more in my movie than they do in real life because we assembled all the crashes together. But I always thought that would be story, you know, and I tried to make a good story out of it. It would be the unusual thing. I remember that because Roger Corman financed the movie, and here's certain conventions of the genre, obligations of the genre too. I said I want to make the first racing car movie where the hero loses the big race. You know, you want to do something different, right? And he said, "No, Jack, the hero wins the big race." So back to the drawing board. So my hero wins the race, but he loses his soul in doing it. So he loses in the end.
That's the difference between an exploitation film and a Jack Hill film.
It really is a really good movie. I think it's probably my best.
It's out. Is it still available on DVD? Is the DVD still available?
It's out of print, but
it's out of print. But if you look hard, you find it. We did screen it here a few years ago.
eBay, maybe.
Marco in the corner.
Okay, yeah. I've seen Switchblade dozens of times, and it's always awesome. This is the first time watching the film that I realized that the hamburger stand we see at the beginning of the movie is out of business later on because it's got the boarding up front that says driven out of business by the punks and the cops, and I hope they go to hell.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize it.
Was that in the script, or did that actual location go out of business?
No, I don't think so. It's in business today, actually. It's still right there. It's in Eagle Rock on Colorado Boulevard.
No, is it the Bucket or is it
the Oinkster?
Oh, which was that the old?
It's called the Oinkster.
It's the one that's the Oinkster now.
It's been remodeled, so you won't get any nostalgia if you go back to Oinkster.
The Oinkster.
And the roller rink, is that the one on San Fernando and Glendale, the Moonlight Rollaway?
That's right, yeah, it's still there.
It's still there, up on San Fernando Road in Glendale, the Moonlight Rollaway, if you want to go roller skating in the scene of the massacre. Still open, hasn't changed much.
Yeah, hasn't changed, it's still right there.
So you guys can certainly go there and relive the massacre at the Moonlight Rollaway. I love the cops when
they won't check your bags, you can bring guns.
I love later on too when the cops confront, you know, the gang members and the Jezebels about this massacre. They just refer to like some people getting injured or bumped into as if I saw machine guns and innocent civilians getting shot, and the cops just acted like, hey, next time you bump into a civilian, I'm gonna come get you. All the way in the back.
What was it like working with Cheryl Rainbow Smith on Swinging Cheerleaders?
Yes, she was adorable. You will see her. She was a wonderful, wonderful talent and personality that unfortunately couldn't handle
was
her
really,
life.
really extraordinary. I kept in touch with her for
Oh,
years afterwards, and she's still one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Not only spiritually, but physically. She was unbelievable looking. And it's so sad that she died tragically the way she did. And I recently ran into her son.
Yeah, he was here at the screening, the last time we screened.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he was? Great.
Yeah.
She's pregnant with him in Swinging Cheerleaders.
I didn't know it when I cast her.
You didn't know. He didn't know. We all kept it quiet, and so yeah. But she was really a sweetheart, a real sweetheart.
Yeah, she's kind of actress that every director would love to work with. It's like just something magic about her.
And that's pretty much the way everyone who's worked with her, we've had here over the years, has described her as being sort of magical and spiritual, and just sort of, there was something about her that just, which comes across on screen. Even still photos on screen, there's something that comes really comes across.
Photogenic, yeah.
Take a couple last questions before we wrap it up and take a break for the next films. Do you have any other questions before I go?
Oh, Joanne, I wanted to mention, have people said this to you when I see you in this movie? There's like shades of Farrah Fawcett, your look, your face.
I think sometimes I've heard that before. But I thought that was nice to say, but the hair, I think. But I think it's just...
No, also a very pretty face.
Oh. Well, thank you very much.
Do we have, I thought I saw one more hand out there. Do we have any final question? Oh, in the back there. Thanks, Laura.
Who's the nurse in Swinging Cheerleaders? The film coming up. Who's the spot that plays the nurse?
The blonde plays in
Oh.
the Swinging Cheerleaders. There's a nurse.
Yes, in the next to last scene in the movie when your teacher friend is in the hospital, he's been wounded, and there's this beautiful, somebody referred to her as Swedish, she's actually a German nurse, comes in, gorgeous nurse, that draws your eye right away and steals the scene. That's my wife, she's sitting right back there.
The movie that we just saw, too.
I cast her in that role because she really had been a nurse and she really knew how to crank the bed. Not that she was gorgeous, had nothing to do with it.
But and also in Swinging Cheerleader or Switchblade Sisters, your children are.
Yeah, my 3 kids were in there. Actually, the two little girls who were in the very, very first scene when the guy comes to repossess the TV seat, the 2 little girls, that was my 2 daughters there, and I've grown up and I'm a grandfather. My son was in there skating somewhere. You don't see him.
And I think Robbie Lee told me that the mother in the movie is her real mother.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
That was her mother. Yeah.
Family
It was
affair.
getting repossessed.
Yeah.
I guess, do you have anything finally you guys want to say before we start the next film? Or
Tonight's trivia.
Anything to set
I
up?
just want to say how much I really have really enjoyed working with Jack. And we've maintained our friendship all these years, and I am just going to miss him, but he'll always be in my heart. And Elka, his darling wife, and they're just real special people, but it's a special moment in history, I think, to be able to have said that we worked together, and what a wonderful director Jack is and continues to be. And he will not stop, I'm sure.
No.
No matter where he is.
I say that we're all gonna miss you when you move away, but we'll see you soon. I hope. So.
We'll entice him back. Bob, anything you wanted to say? You're also working on the second film too, the 2 of you, Bob, or is there maybe anything you want to say to set up the Swinging Cheerleaders, or anything you want us to keep an eye out for, or just any final statement you want to say about working with Jack on a number of films over the years?
No, only thing I would say, I just wish Jack all the luck, and we all love him, and he does great work, and we intend to see the sequels, Jack Hill sequels. So everybody, please give Jack his props. And I know you do love him, and we're all going to miss him. Thank you, Jack.
I don't know if the audience appreciates how many firsts you gave to people in this business. And besides working with Bob Miner, you also had the first female AD. You got her into the union, which was, what was it?
Daisy Gerber.
No, I don't.
Daisy Gerber.
No,
Daisy Gerber, yes.
I didn't work with Daisy, no. I don't think.
Yes, you did.
Well, that's right, yeah. I should have talked to her.
But that was a very important
That's right,
thing.
yeah. Swinging Cheerleaders, yeah.
Really, I mean, I remember when she first came in, and the crew just kind of looked around because
She's about this tall.
She
She's
took
tough.
care of business. She really did.
So I met her at UCLA in the film department there.
And so, but all of that leads us to where we are now in film. You know.
I think a lot of these advances and changes are always made in independent film. It's very often, Hollywood catches up later with the, genre-breaking things you do and getting people into the business and giving opportunities to people who Hollywood didn't give opportunities to. And it says a lot too, because we've never, here we're doing this thing with Jack and got all these people who showed up and other guests who wanted to be here but couldn't because of illness. That all these years later, 40 years later, you guys have all stayed on good terms, stayed friends. It says a lot. You never call somebody from one of your films and say, "Oh, we're doing a Jack Hill night," and they never go, "Oh, that bastard." It's pretty much always, the reaction is always, "Oh, I'd love to be there." Oh my God. I haven't had that reaction yet. And also for Teda and Candice.
Yeah, I haven't seen Teda since I saw her act on Sunset Strip.
Yeah, Jack. Anyway, I liked working Jack because he gave me the freedom. I mean, when you do your films and all this stuff, you have all the script and all this around. But I had the freedom to do that. So when I did sit on the man's face, I wanted to discuss that with him. And I just go ahead and do that. Sure, Jack. And when I show the tits, I don't mind doing all that because that was fun for me. People will get shy, but me, I just loved it. Right?
I thought I was the first one that sat on the guy's face.
No, I sat on your face.
I do remember though that I heard a rumor that Mr. Corman didn't really want me in the film because my boobs weren't big enough.
Oh,
That's what I heard. But I heard you fought for me, Jack. And you did. And I made it in the film and I had the time of my life.
Me too.
There was a shower scene that we had, and for some reason they didn't want me to turn towards the camera. So I didn't do that. Anyway, I was known as the horny one, and I never got laid, and I was very frustrated.
These are things you only hear in this place. You will not hear them on train tracks, you will not hear them in interviews.
But I got my revenge when we made a big breakout.
That's right.
We got that ugly guard down on the ground and we showed him a thing or two. Or did he see a thing or two?
He saw all.
He saw a thing or two.
All right, folks.
Thanks, Jack.
I think we're going to take our little break for the next one. I want to thank all of our guests. First off, I want to thank
about directing. First rule of directing actors is the same rule as in medicine. First, do no harm.